It is my great pleasure today to launch the UN Watch database, which I believe represents a major contribution to the cause of UN reform and of combating dictatorships, double standards, and discrimination at the United Nations. Before we show key features of this vital research and advocacy tool, I would like to say a few words about its origin and purpose. As we just heard from Ambassador Erdan and from Hillel, the United Nations is failing to live up to its founding principles. Instead of acting to promote international peace and security and to protect fundamental human rights worldwide, the UN routinely elects dictatorships to key positions and turns a blind eye to the worst abusers of human rights. Repressive regimes use their influence to shield themselves and their allies from any scrutiny. Instead, numerous UN bodies obsessively target Israel, the world's only Jewish state and the only democracy in the Middle East, with a grossly disproportionate amount of one-sided condemnations adopted year after year. At the General Assembly in 2020, for example, there was one resolution on Iran, one on Syria, and one on North Korea, and 17 on Israel. This corruption of the UN's founding principles and ideals ought to be a matter of grave concern for all who value democracy, fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law. Regrettably, however, most Western democracies are actually enablers of this moral corruption at the United Nations, simply going along to get along. Instead of using their power to challenge and reform the system, countries like the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and the Netherlands vote for more than 70% of UNGA resolutions that target Israel. Fortunately, though, not everyone is willing to accept this as normal. Over the years, people around the world who want to fight UN bias would write to us at UN Watch to ask for statistics about UN resolutions or about the composition of certain UN bodies. Often, they needed the data for help in publishing an article, writing a letter to the editor, or contacting their elected representatives. Likewise, speechwriters for members of Congress, senators, even prime ministers would call us to request the latest information. Because new UN resolutions are constantly being adopted, and because countries rotate off and on UN bodies, this information has to be constantly updated, and people ultimately want more. They want to see the texts that were adopted, to understand the context, and to know how their country voted. And so, we at UN Watch realized that the world needed a user-friendly website to easily access all of that information, and we decided to build it. I am delighted that now, for the first time, UN Watch's new database provides lawmakers, journalists, researchers, and activists with the essential information and tools they need to identify UN discrimination and double standards. Moreover, the database empowers citizens worldwide to demand change with ready-made petitions for every country.